Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the December 10th meeting of Belleville City Council and our first business meeting. I am pleased to announce that all councillors are present, and I'll ask the clerk for a moment of reflection.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Thank you. You may be seated. On behalf of my colleagues, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today on this special meeting for us, our first business meeting. And we ask for everyone's patience and understanding as we try to work through our procedures. Item number 3 on the agenda today is a disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anyone have anything to disclose? Seeing none, we move to number 4, which is public meetings. There are no public meetings scheduled for today. Number 5 is reading and confirmation of the minutes of the regular council meeting of November 26, 2018, moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor McCaw. Any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Number 6, deputations. It's my pleasure to ask Tim McKinney and Ryan Lapalme of the Rotary Club of Belleville, as well as Roger Lajoie, Vice President, and Rob Maloney of the Belleville Senators to make a deputation before Council. Who is making the deputation today? Come on up, Mr. McKinney. Welcome. Thank you for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Your Worship and Belleville City Council, my name is Tim McKinney, and I am here on behalf of the Rotary Club of Belleville. I'd like to introduce Ryan Lapalme, and he'll be speaking just after I will. We have a number of Rotarians in the audience, and I know our president, Andrew Bandler, is on his way. We also have in the audience Roger Lajoie, VP Communications, Belleville Senators, and he will say a few words after us. Congratulations to the new council. I had the pleasure of attending the inaugural meeting of the new council last Monday. I did hear at the meeting that over the next 4 years, Mayor Panchak wants to see the community working together, and Councillor Paul Carr indicated that he would like to see more partnerships with the City of Belleville. The purpose of our deputation is to show the City of Belleville that the Rotary Club of Belleville wants to get behind a new project, and that of building an outdoor ice rink and sports facility. We have had preliminary discussions with Mark Fleur and have expressed our desire to partner with the city. Our mandate would be to bring corporate sponsors within the business community to the table. These sponsors could be national companies, they could be local companies looking to partner, they could be contractors that want to do in-kind donations. And anyone listening today that wants to join us, give me a call. We also see the Rotary Club involved in the planning of the project and assisting any way we can to bring this project to fruition. The Ottawa Senators Foundation may be a possible partner, and they have had lots of experience building outdoor rinks in the Ottawa and Gatineau region. Their newest project was built in Smith Falls, and it was a real community project with a lot of local partners coming to the table. So we see a very similar project here. I'd like to hand the microphone over to Ryan Lapalme, and he's going to talk about our vision for this rink.
Good afternoon. What we're kind of looking at in Belleville, we don't sugarcoat anything. We don't do it under. We want to do it right the first time around. The way we look at doing a rink is being full functional in the wintertime. Of course, because of Mother Nature, it's always tricky to actually have a full functional arena in the wintertime, and it's not like the old days like Bobby Hall pushing a hockey rink or hockey net down the bay to get a workout in. That doesn't happen anymore in Belleville. We just don't get that functionality with the bay. So refrigeration, it'd be pretty much number one. Whether that gets done right in the first go, could take maybe phase 2 or phase 3 to get done, but that definitely I think needs to be a need, and you can see that in Kingston, that they have one right downtown. So that's definitely a need. It's going to be a full functional arena, accessible year-round, whether it be hockey, rollerblading, lacrosse, and even basketball. So, and whatever you want to do at that rink in the summertime, from markets to anything else, we want to make this a fully recreational facility, and in many phases, many things that we can actually build around it. Reason why this hits really close to me is I'm very involved in hockey, have coached for many, many years as a non-parent. I've seen the decline with Belleville hockey membership in the Bearcats, and it's really disheartening and really concerning because, especially with Bearcats, women and ladies have made such huge strides in society today, and they are just not coming out, whether it's from a price point or whatever, but at the end of the day, we need to get out there. We have an outdoor facility in Tynanaga, you got them in Battawa, you got them in, I grew up in Sterling, you have one north of there in Springbrook, but we don't have one in Belleville. We got an AHL hockey team here, so we need an outdoor rink in this area to bring kids out. They're stuck at home, they're on phones, they're playing video games, they need to get out, live healthy lives, and find a facility that's accessible to them all the time. And I think this will enable kids to stay active, to find routines in their life, and to provide programs that would not be available to them because of maybe finances. So this really hits to everyone that's really in our community right now. Lastly, Rotary Club, every year we run a Hockey Night Quinny fundraiser. Our next one is March 1st. In years past, we've raised money, I think a couple years ago it was over around $20,000 actually to the BGH Children's Treatment Center, and the one after that was actually for Playing for Keeps, going towards the Children's Foundation for kids that just don't have the funds to do it at the end of the day. And as you know, there's just never enough funds out there in any way we can support. And really, it's a partnership right now. Partnering with the city, partnering with the SENS Foundation, I think would be a really good future for us right now. And overall, we really hope that you guys consider this on your agenda today. Thank you.
Roger's going to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for having us here today. I just want to take a moment to thank Rotary for their great enthusiasm for this project and just tell you a very little bit about the SENS Foundation. The Ottawa Centres Foundation has been in existence for more than 25 years, and they have built 15 similar facilities throughout Ontario. And quite coincidentally, Tim and Ryan and the fantastic people of Rotary approached us and approached the city and are approaching you today to try to get a nice, beautiful outdoor rink built here in Belleville. The Ottawa Senators Foundation also thinks that's a great idea and are willing to partner and help both financially and with all the resources they have. They've built 15 throughout the Ottawa area. They're very experienced in doing this, and with the cooperation of Rotary, local business, and hopefully from Council, we're very confident we can have a beautiful legacy left here. On behalf of the organization, I thank you already for all of the wonderful things that you've done. Our hockey club is so delighted to be here, and we're very, very happy that Rotary has decided to partner with us on this, and you can count on the full support of the SENS Foundation and the Belleville Senators as well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thanks, Roger. And just to summarize, it's a win-win-win for the Belleville residents, for the Ottawa Centres Foundation, for the business community, and for Rotary. We're coming up to our 100 years in 2020. That's going to be a big event for the Rotary Club of Belleville, and it's going to be good for the families of Belleville. So we will be doing a further presentation if the city sees fit to back this project. We'll do a presentation at one of our lunch meetings on February 4th at the Travel Lodge. So we expect to have lots of more information as this evolves, but thank you for allowing us to present.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you for coming with this very kind and very generous offer. So just to be clear, colleagues, we'll be looking for, after you have any questions, we'll be looking for a resolution to receive it and refer it to staff for follow-up work. Does anyone have any questions about this? Councillor McCaw.
Thank you.
Councillor McCaw.
Through you. Just a few questions. I'm not sure who to direct them through.
Councillor McCaw?
Yes.
Sorry, we're in a full session, so if you can stand, please.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
A few questions.
Sure.
Not sure who can answer them. They're more along the lines of the Senators Foundation, so I don't know if
Okay.
you can get some answers there.
Yeah, Roger.
Okay. Hi, thanks for coming. I just had a few questions. So you speak about 15 rinks that you've done already. Is there any type of generalized, I guess what I'm trying to find out is what does something like this cost?
They are very varied, Kelly. They can start at around $225,000, and some projects can be 10 times that cost, if depending on the community's involvement and how much of a facility they want. The bare bones structure of one, generally speaking, has been in about $225,000.
Okay, if I could ask a few more. So also, in addition to that, generally speaking, obviously you're coming to us, this council, looking for some type of contribution. What really would the Sens Foundation be prepared, or in the past, what have they, what has been their contribution?
The Sens Foundation has a arrangement with the National Hockey League to promise $100,000 immediately to the construction of the facility, wherever it may be. And the Belleville Senators Hockey Club, through our 50/50 and foundation, will also make a contribution. We don't firm up that contribution because that depends, Kelly, on how our 50/50 and our foundation things go, but we will be financially involved. And we are not today asking for a contribution. We are looking to open the door for discussion that you are interested, because how these have worked in the past is that municipalities have given the land, it has been built by the Sens Foundation, and it's a partnership. So we are in the very preliminary stages. Most of these facilities are rather bare bones, but our friends at Rotary here want to build a real beauty here in Belleville, so that's why we're immediately partnering with them.
Okay, so further to that, we're talking about a site. No, we don't have a site obviously picked out. We're very in the stage of infancy here. But would you be looking for a site to be donated or designated? So in other words, who actually owns the
There have been both designated lands, and there have been donated lands from the city, and that part again starts with the discussion. We have full materials that we will provide council that explains how these have worked in the past and how the process works.
So generally speaking, with your other projects, 15 of them, who maintains them? Who does the general maintenance? Who pays the utility costs, ongoing maintenance, the repairs after 10 years that might be required? Who is actually going to be responsible for that?
That is the city's responsibility, and for taking over the arena. We donate the facility, the cost, part of the cost of the facility, build the facility on the systems that we have, and then the city manages the arena.
I don't want to keep you up here too long.
That's okay.
Just
And by the way, just to say, I am representing the Belleville Senators today. The
Yes.
Sens Foundation of Ottawa are the people that have done this. I haven't constructed an arena. We haven't constructed an arena,
no.
but they've done 15 of these.
So am I to presume then you'll be part of the crew that will look for donors?
Oh, very much so.
Okay, so
Very
that's
much so.
not left upon city resources to be looking for.
Oh, very much. We will be with Rotary, we will be very anxious to help get sponsorship, sure.
Okay, and maybe just one more. As far as advertising goes, you know, your normal rinks will have advertising boards and things like that. Is that something that you do?
Yep.
And who collects the revenue from that?
Depending on who's out soliciting, that could be, again, a partnership of the city. Our goal is to have the facility up and operational at, hopefully, with a corporate sponsorship, a zero cost to the city, frankly.
Okay, other than the ongoing yearly maintenance?
Correct.
Year after year.
Correct.
So the advertising really that is sold, or anything to that effect, any revenue generated, is something that,
If the city comes in and sponsorships, this is not a for-profit thing from our organization.
okay. All right, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Councillor McCaw. Just remind everyone that when referring to councillors, we refer to them by their titles. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Maloney, for your excellent presentation.
It's Mr. Lajoie.
I'm sorry. Well, you'll have to excuse me. Councillor McCaw covered several points that I wanted to ask. The basic one being now refrigeration. When you give a bare bones cost of $225,000, I'm presuming that doesn't include anything to do with refrigeration?
No, the cost really varies, Councillor, because there are some facilities that are largely indoor, or not almost indoor-ready arenas. They are tremendous facilities at a greater cost. It is an artificial ice surface, but that cost is the cost of setting it up and getting it operational. At its bare bones minimum, which has been done in 15 areas. Of the other 15 areas, many of them have elevated these facilities. They've put a roof on them, they've put other kind of things on them. So that's how basically the project works. And how far and how elaborate an arena will be determined by how much corporate and sponsorship interest is. I might make it clear again, we're not asking for anything here today. We
Right.
want to pursue this further with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before Councillor Kelly, I'm just going to ask Director Fleur if he had something he wanted to add on an item.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make council aware there is a staff report that's associated with this presentation, so if there's further questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. Roger is here on representing the Belleville Senators, and the Rotary representing a group that would like to lead it from a community perspective. But in terms of some of the details that you might be looking for, they'll be coming back in the form of a report early in the new year. And perhaps both the Senators and Rotary will be in a better position to understand what this will mean in terms of city participation and scope of project at that time. But I can answer some of your questions when it comes up on the agenda.
Thank you.
Your Worship.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Question for Ryan Palm. Ryan, are you in the Rotary Club too?
Yes, yes, I am.
Congratulations on your 100th anniversary.
Thank you.
You talked about the decline in sports, particularly hockey, with the Bearcats and minor hockey, and we see that all across the country. And that comes down to cost. And we're seeing that in high school and a lot of minor sports. The fastest growing sport in this country, I think, for youth is basketball. Because it's a pair of running shoes and it's cheap and it's cost effective for parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I know your struggles with hockey and I can appreciate what you're saying. How do you foresee this? If this outdoor rink comes to Belleville, like, is it just throw pucks on as a game of shinny? Is there scheduling? Like, how do you foresee this partnership with the city with this outdoor rink?
Yep, great question, Councillor Kelly. I guess I wasn't really clear in the construction of this rink. It is a hockey rink going down, but with that being said, the Sens in the past, and they have a great little platform of how they actually do it. They have basketball nets that are actually attached to the rink, so it is a full functional, not just hockey rink per se. It can be used for multiple sports that are actually out there, and that's what we see. So when we talk about basketball and the growing, there's basketball nets that are actually on these rinks, and that come part of the package that the Senators Foundation bring forth to Belleville or bring forth to the communities at the end of the day.
I'm sure in your research, in the 15 outdoor rinks that the Ottawa Senators have built in communities, have we tracked the success of these outdoor rinks? And I agree 100% with you. We have to do something and we can build it and hopefully they will come.
Yeah.
But are we seeing success? Maybe Roger?
Yeah, that'd probably be Roger.
You
for
can
sure.
touch on that?
Absolutely, Councillor Kelly. They have been incredibly well received. They're incredibly well used in all of the facilities. And I think Mark Fleur can certainly attest that we have already talked to people in the other facilities and the other areas about it. And I should say, this is not just a hockey arena. It is a year-round facility, which is also for lacrosse, basketball, other sports. It is not just hockey. During the summertime, it is used for ball hockey, basketball, minor lacrosse, and in terms of how it's managed and run, that's largely up to the community. So, Councillor Kelly, it's a case of well, do you see a need for recreation? We do not impose anything. The Senators Foundation creates this facility, and how it's operated and maintained is up to the city.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Great. So this is just a motion to begin exploratory discussions, and I'd have a question for Mr. Lajoie. My understanding of this is that from the Belleville Senators' perspective, you want to make use of this facility as well for your activations to be able to connect your players more with the community. So I'm assuming that they will assist with some type of activities there, or would you use that as a place where you would do an outdoor practice, for example?
Oh, 100%, Mayor Panchik. There's no doubt about that. That's one of the reasons these things are so successful.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, by the way, the other 15 facilities are all around the Ottawa area. For obvious reasons, that's where the Ottawa Senators are closest to. But with the American Hockey League coming to Belleville, the Sens Foundation immediately said, we have to get an arena in Belleville so we can promote not the Ottawa Senators brand, but the Belleville Senators brand. That's why we, and I say, you know, the Sens Foundation is a separate organization, but as a hockey team, we're thrilled about this. This is an excellent opportunity for us to display our team and market our team and work with the city and provide a legacy and a great vehicle for local youth to play basketball, lacrosse, ball hockey, and of course, we hope they're playing hockey.
Right. And as folks who attend Belleville Senators games buy 50/50 tickets, will any of the proceeds for that be part of the $100,000 that you'll be submitting?
No question. It'll be in
Wonderful.
addition. The
So-
$100,000
okay.
is a commitment from the National Hockey League.
Okay, yeah, so maybe more.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much to all three of you for attending. The resolution is that the deputation by Tim McKinney and Ryan LaPalme of the Rotary Club of Belleville and Roger Lajoie, Vice President of the Belleville Senators, regarding a new outdoor rink and partnering with the City of Belleville to provide land and run the operations of the rink, be received and referred to staff. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 6.2, is Mr. Tucker here today? Come forth, please. Marvin Tucker of the Belleville Theatre Guild will make a deputation to council. Welcome, Mr. Tucker.
Okay, great. Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. It's great to have an opportunity to come before council, especially at your first meeting for this term. The Belleville Theatre Guild was formed in the early 1950s and moved to its current location on Pinnacle Street in 1969. This was formerly a Salvation Army building, for any of you who were around back then. The building is owned by the city. The Theatre Guild has an excellent relationship with the city and looks after all operating costs for the building. Originally a 126-seat theatre, it was a flat auditorium with a revolving stage. In the early 1980s, the building was renovated into a 154-seat theatre with sloped seating and excellent sight lines. If any of you have not been into the theatre before, it's a really warm, intimate room with great sight lines and really good sound. And to me, other than the Empire Theatre, which is quite a bit larger, but at this scale, it's probably the nicest auditorium in Belleville for presentations like this. In 2002, a major renovation was undertaken with a Trillium grant and donations from local individuals and businesses. An addition was put on with barrier-free washroom access, an elevator, and a new box office, as well as increased backstage area and wings for the actors to put on presentations. Each year, the Theatre Guild has an ambitious production schedule that includes a one-act play festival, the purpose of which is strictly for the performance of plays written by local playwrights. In addition to the one-act festival, which happens near the end of August and into September, the Guild produces 5 full-length plays each year, and one of those would be a musical, usually happening at the end of the year. Every aspect of a production, including producers, directors, stage managers and their assistants, set designers, builders and painters, props people, sound and lighting designers and technicians, is all done by volunteers. I would estimate that in any given production that we put on, there's probably over 1,000 hours of volunteer time dedicated to that. Each of the 5 plays that we put on in a year runs for 14 performances over a 3-week period. On average, 1,000 Belleville residents would attend each play produced. Despite a busy schedule in recent years, the Guild has opened its doors to other local arts groups. Through partnerships with groups like Night Kitchen 2, we have allowed for local musicians and spoken word artists to be able to perform in front of a live and supportive audience. We've also outfitted the theatre with a projector and a large screen, so films can now be shown. Pinnacle Playhouse is now a primary venue for Belleville Downtown DocFest Documentary Film Festival, a 3-day event in March. With auditions, rehearsals, and performances of all kinds taking place, it's a very busy little theatre. And that brings us to our request to the city today. Despite the best efforts of the Theatre Guild, we still sometimes hear from people that they're not even aware that the building is in existence. It may be because it's kind of in the shadow of our beautiful new library. With its architectural design, it's very eye-catching, and people really notice that building when they drive down Pinnacle Street. And for some reason, we still hear from people that when we talk about the theater in downtown Belleville, and they say, oh, you mean the Empire Theater? No, we're talking about the Pinnacle Playhouse on Pinnacle Street, and there seems to be many people that still don't realize that we have this beautiful little theater there. The building is nondescript, I guess we could say. We want to give our theater more street appeal. We would like the front of the building to say something about what's taking place inside, and we want to make it noticeable. A large marquee would add colorful and much-needed drama to the front of the building, while allowing us to advertise upcoming and current events and productions at the theater. Through contributions by local firms, Pace Interior Design and Guthrie Engineering, we now have a final design for a new marquee as well as construction drawings. All construction costs have been determined, and I'm going to go through those with you now. So I just want to show you what the new marquee would look like. So the drawing on the left is you see the building, and then the marquee sticking out about 10 feet beyond the building, and it's about 44 inches deep. And it would run across the front of the building 20 to 24 feet. So there would be lots of room on there for us to mount. We're looking at digital electronic signage, so we could change all the lettering automatically and have all kinds of color up there and really draw some attention to this building. So this is the existing building as you see it now, with a very small little marquee that sticks out about 1.5 feet, and not very much room for us to get letters on there. So that's the elevation, or the front of the building looking from the south. And from the north, we do have an existing sign which we might incorporate into this project. We've got a couple of options that have been developed by the sign company that we've been working with. So I'd like to look at some of the costs involved for a project like this now. First of all, we would need a steel framework to mount the signs on, and we've received quotations for this, and the cost would be around $17,000, including installation and taxes. The signage itself, regardless of which option we opt for, that would include the sign on the north-facing wall or not, we're looking at around $60,000. We'd need some electrical work done and some masonry work to fill in a window that is going to have to disappear or above the doors right now. We've already had a design done up by Pace Interior Design. So this is an in-kind contribution of $5,000, as well as engineering drawings, or construction drawings are already made up. And this work has been donated by Guthrie Engineering with an in-kind contribution of around $5,000. The total project cost is around $94,000. The Theatre Guild itself has recently, at a board meeting, dedicated $20,000 to the program. We're asking the city to look at $25,000 towards this project, and for the rest of it, we'll be approaching local private foundations. So that would bring us up to the $94,000 that we would need to see this project happen. That's about it, and I'd like to entertain any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions, Council? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. The proposal that you would go ahead with, will you go ahead before you raise the $39,000, or what's the proposal that you're...
I would say the proposal wouldn't go forward until we had all the money secured.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millette.
Yes, Marvin, the electronic sign you're saying, is it a digital display? Can you just elaborate a little bit on what it'll look like from the
it would be
street?
pretty much identical to the sign that has recently been installed at the Wellness Center on Canafton Road, the large colorful sign. So it's completely controlled by a computer inside the building, and you can change what's up there, repeat messages, put in lettering, large, small, whatever you want. The restriction is only, what the software on the computer can do. So it's all handled digitally through the computer, and yeah.
Right. Any other questions? Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tucker, and a great presentation. I know that the guild itself is just a gem for Belleville, and lots of things going on. I know Mr. Jerry Freiberg is in most of your productions, and
he's in one that's going on right now.
That's right.
He's probably getting ready.
I know that I definitely know the plight of being known to and getting out, and people not knowing that. Have you reached out to the Bay Quinte Regional Marketing Board? Does downtown, do you work with them at all in promotion as well?
That's an avenue that we have not pursued, but I think it sounds like an excellent idea.
Okay. And do you have any marketing funds a year that you do spend? Anything even just for social media, just working on promotion at all?
Yes, we do a fair bit of social media. We do advertising in local newspapers for auditions and upcoming plays. Yeah.
I think I'd recommend absolutely also looking at that and continuing to promote, because it's one of those things that I know is just incredible here in the city. We just don't see enough of it or hear it. So maybe those channels are definitely first start, and I think maybe the city can do some more too. So.
Great. Thank you.
Right. Other questions? Before I take the resolution, Mr. Tucker, I wonder if you can just give us a quick little advertisement for your latest production that you're doing. Do you want to take a couple moments just to tell us about it, how much longer it's running for, what prices are?
I'd be very happy to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, we just finished week 2 of a 3-week run of a Neil Simon play called Rumors. And it's an absolutely hilarious kind of a farce, doors opening and closing and things are always going wrong. It's a very strong cast, some of our most experienced actors on stage for this one, cast of about 8. It's been extremely well received, and I can tell by the laughter when I'm downstairs working. I've seen it a few times myself, and it's been extremely well received. So I'd strongly recommend that you try and get out and see it. The cost for a ticket is about $20. Yeah, and it'll be on for one more week, so we're running Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, and then it'll be finished. So better to get your name in soon, because the last couple of performances that I saw were full.
Good. Well, you are an incredible organization for our community. If you can take back our best wishes for everybody, and lots of success with your show.
Appreciate that very much.
Thank you for coming today.
Okay.
So the resolution is that the deputation by Marvin Tucker of the Belleville Theatre Guild regarding the Marquee project at the Pinnacle Playhouse be received and referred to staff. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 6.3, Frank Giannopoulos of KGF Capital Realty will make a deputation to Council. Good afternoon, Mr. Giannopoulos. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Your Worship, councillors, city staff, for the opportunity to present today. My name is Frank Giannopoulos. I'm here today representing KGF Capital Realty, requesting that development fees are deferred to occupancy for the 103-unit development known as Magnolia Garden Residence, located at 135 Station Street in Belleville. You voting in support of the requested concession today will heavily assist us in increasing and maintaining the depth of affordability to 80% of market rents for this much-needed community development. Thank you, Your Worship, councillors, city staff, and the public for taking the time to review and consider our request. Any questions?
You can just give me one quick second. Refer about options here. Thank you very much, Mr. Giannopoulos. Can you just refresh, because we've got some new councillors here.
Sure.
So this project has been before City Council.
It has.
It came through the Planning Committee and then to Council. Can you just do a quick rundown, because maybe not everyone's familiar with the type of project, the demographics of the group that would be residing there?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So the demographics of our target client is 50 plus. We're partnered with CMHC on this project to make it as affordable as possible. In saying that, we're aiming for an 80% a market, we're aiming to charge 80% of market rents. So depending on market rent on that particular year, we'll be charging 80% of that. We're currently we're just about to complete our site plan approval, and we're planning to have shovels on the ground for March of this year, or sorry, next year, 2019. That's where we're at, and we're looking forward to getting this built and housing people that are in need of this type of housing.
And just again, for our members of council that are new, this project came, there was some feedback from the community. We changed the access from Albion to all the accesses off Station Street, and we fit it in. So, you know, again, this is another step in the process. Councillor Culhane, you had some questions.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Giannopoulos, you mentioned 80% of market rent, and I'm just not familiar really with the details of that. Is it any way equivalent to geared to income?
It is, yes.
And could you give me an example of perhaps a one-bedroom apartment, what that might be?
It depends where rents will be upon completion or substantial completion, but today a one-bedroom unit that rents for $905 would rent at 80% of that. So I don't have my calculator in the front of me, but it would reduce the rent to the, I believe, the $775 range.
There are one-bedrooms available for $905 in this city?
Well, I'd have to take a look. Right now, the rents have changed significantly in the last 2 years, so it's hard to gauge without going out to market on any of the new builds, which there isn't much of that right now.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah. Anyone else for questions? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. I concentrated.
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. There we go. All right. Thank you for coming. So, question: in terms of 80% of the current rent, so what is your total development charges that you're looking at with this project?
We're in and around the $230,000 range.
Okay, so by deferring the $230,000, how much of a reduction, and we use today's rates, and I recognize that this is hypothetical, how much more of a reduction would you see deferring those development charges?
It's on the front end of things. So right now our investment costs for storm water and site plan approval, and to get through the first end of the process, which is pretty expensive, it will help us significantly as our financing works in conjunction with our construction schedule. So this is one of those expenses that are expected before we get to any of our financing or move along with the next phase of the project. So for us, we're tasked and motivated with our financing partner to go out to City Council, to all levels of government, to seek out concessions. And the more concessions we do get, the higher we're rated in terms of, it's similar to an RFP process. So the higher the points that we get, the lower we have a higher amortization and a lower interest rate, which allows us to bring that rent down to 80% from, say, 90 or 95, which typically right now there's multiple developments that are managed through Hastings County that are at 80%, but most of those receive concessions up front for the balance of the 20% reduction that they would see over that 20-year life of the project, or 25, depending on how it's amortized.
Okay, great. Thanks for that explanation. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Frank, for coming. So this project then, if we don't defer the development charges, does that have a bearing on your market rent that you would charge?
It may affect timelines by maybe a few months, maybe not, but given the way and the rate that rents are rising in and around this city and a lot of municipalities that are just a stone's throw from Toronto, it's better to move quicker than sooner than later on it.
Yeah, like the development that's on on Sydney Street, that big development over there, they've got some government funding.
They
Did you
do.
get any government funding?
We were recipients of seed funding,
Yes.
similar type of funding that, or grants that were
That they
received. But we have not been the successful IAH applicant, which is
And the last question then, you're going to restrict it to 50 and up then,
yes,
for the age group?
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Anyone else have any questions? Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, sir. And just questions as I'm new. Just in terms of how many units and the mix of them. So how many one-bedrooms, how many bachelor?
So we're total unit count of 103, and we're looking at approximately 50-50 split between the twos and ones.
Okay, so two bedroom.
Two bedroom and one bedroom. Okay. Yeah, and we have three bedroom units.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
But so that's all based on our feasibility studies that have been completed around it.
And sorry, when's completion date?
March 2020. Is what we're aiming for. So
March 2020?
2020, starting March 2019 and 1 year from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So my colleagues, you know, again, what we're looking for is authorization for staff to enter into an agreement, a legal agreement to deal with the deferral of those development charges. And that agreement will have to come back to us. I was just checking on that previously. So thank you very much, Mr. Giannopoulos, for coming today. The resolution is that the deputation by Frank Giannopoulos of KGF Capital Realty requesting development fees for Magnolia Garden residents at 135 Station Street be deferred to be received and referred to staff. Can I get a motion for that? Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Sandison. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Correspondence. Excuse me, seeing none. Number 8 is Committee of the Whole, and I need a motion to go into Committee of the Whole to hear and consider reports, passing of recommendations and resolutions with myself in the chair. Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And now that we're in Committee of the Whole, my colleagues, the rules are a little bit more relaxed, so we can have some more discussion, and we don't need to stand. 8A, reports. The agenda shall include, under reports, items that warrant individual attention from Council. And 8A1 is Bird Park Community Hockey Rink naming. The report is Director Corporate Services Clerk's Report number DCS 2018-38. And the resolution is that Council approve the naming/dedication of the Bird Park Community Hockey Rink in honor of Sylvain Routier and direct staff to have signage designed and installed in consultation with the Neighbourhood Committee. Can I get a motion upon the floor? Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Carr. Council, I wonder if I can beg your indulgence. We need unanimous consent, but I know that Sarah Routier is in the audience, and I'd like to invite her to come forward just to tell us a little bit about how we've gotten here and what the rink naming would be. Seeing no opposition, Sarah, do you want to come forward and just push that button to turn the red light on? Welcome and thank you for being here with us today. And I know that in the audience with you as well, you got Andrea Bird from the community.
Andrea's our committee chair.
Yes, and there's no relation to the Bird Park.
Not
right?
at all.
Yes. Thank you.
So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about my husband Sylvain, his involvement in our community, and how the rink he built in our backyard ended up in Bird Park. I thought it would be helpful to put a name to a face, so I did bring a picture of him. Sylvain was an OPP sergeant in our community, worked out of Quinte West Detachment, Napanee Detachment, and on the Tactical and Rescue Unit out of Odessa for 13 years. Sylvain was a hockey coach and trainer for Belleville Minor Hockey for about the last 5 years. He coached all 3 of our kids. He himself played a great deal of hockey as well. We were also a billet family for the OHL Belleville Bulls team and the Picton Pirates team, so we were quite involved in hockey. Every year, Sylvain built a massive outdoor rink in our backyard for our kids and for their friends to enjoy. It was 55 feet long by 35 feet wide, and every year he would build more and more. He'd add lights and build benches, and he built a Zamboni, and we would have the kids' hockey teams over to our house once a year to enjoy it. In April of 2018, Sylvain started struggling with mental illness. He went off work, and sadly on July 31st, 2018, he took his own life. Shortly after that, I decided it would be best for me to move to the Settlers Ridge area. Country living is a little bit hard upkeep on my own. My good friend Andrea had brought up the thought of how do we get an outdoor rink built in our neighborhood, where I'm moving to actually this week. Councillor Sandison was very helpful, and we met with park staff on how we could get it going. Brimley Park in the East End currently runs their own outdoor rink as well. So we formed a committee, and I donated our outdoor rink to Bird Park. The thought of the neighborhood kids and my kids getting to enjoy it was an honor for me to do for them. Duvenco Homes was very helpful. They came to my house and took all the rink boards out of my garage for me and built it in Bird Park, so it's currently constructed. They also built it longer and wider, so it's now 100 feet by 55 feet long. Duvenco Homes has purchased the liner. Belleville Fire has offered to help with filling the rink and maintaining the water. My brother happens to live in the backyard of the Bird Park, so he's going to be donating electricity for us so we can run the lights, and we're hoping to fill it in the next couple weeks. So the motion of naming it after Sylvain is an honor, and I just thank you for considering it.
Thank you very much. And just before we ask you to sit down, can I ask you just to pass the picture to Councillor Millette, and he can pass it around the table? And for those of you who are new, Sarah is an employee of the City of Belleville, and we're very, very proud of you and the strength you've shown through this whole process. Can you tell me, he built a Zamboni?
He did.
What?
It's not one that you sit on, that you drive. It was made out of piping, and he had cloth at the end of it that he could attach to the hose. When we built our house, he purposely had a hot water hose bib hooked up to the back of our house so he could put hot water on the rink. Yeah, he did attach it to the hose and just water it, and the cloth would follow behind it and make it all smooth. Yeah.
Well, excellent, good. My colleagues, any questions for Sarah? No? Thank you very much. Councillor Culhane, go ahead.
Not so much a question, Your Worship, thank you. Just a comment to you, Sarah, what a difficult, tragic time for you.
Thank you.
And what a great way to honor his memory. And thank you for giving us that background.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Director Fleur, we have the motion on the floor. Do you have anything you want to add? Can you talk about just about the timing? If we were to pass the resolution today, how long do you think before signage will be designed and able to be installed? Or Joe or Mr. Reid?
Chair, the signage is actually already designed, ready to be installed in the next couple of weeks, so it's just a matter of giving them the go-ahead and they can be printed and installed. Okay,
excellent, good. Any questions? All right, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much. 8A2, Cannabis Legalization. Policy Planners Report Number PP 2018-35, and the resolution is that Report Number PP 2018-35 regarding cannabis legalization retail stores be received as information, and that the issue of opting in or out of the provincial program of establishing cannabis retail stores within the City of Belleville be considered at the January 14th, 2019 Council meeting. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Millette. Thank you very much. And just to let the public know, the purpose of this is to be able to get it on the agenda, disclose it to the public, particularly so that we as members of City Council can consult widely over the next month before the January 14th meeting, and be able to make a decision that we feel is informed and also reflective of community comments. Starting with Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Chair Panchik. The issue, we're all well aware of the issue, whether to opt in, opt out. Other municipalities, my concern is other municipalities have already taken the step of putting online polls, gathering comments in that manner. I believe I sent out something to a number of councillors, or all my fellow councillors, that the City of Windsor has already taken the step, I believe over a month ago, to garner public input. My concern is that we're coming forward with this to vote on the matter on the 14th, or to, without hearing from the citizens themselves, and, I think it's an important step. I know Prince Edward County, for instance, has itself posted something on the municipal website. I guess my question would be, is there anything prohibiting us, or would it be difficult to get one of these polls up and running and perhaps get it onto the city website for feedback for our decision-making?
I'm actually going to refer that to Director McDonald, but I think part of the consultation process is for us to be available and to be approachable by members of the community and speak to them. We can run, I know I can run, for example, a Twitter or a Facebook poll, but I understand your question is more about an official City of Belleville poll, so I'll ask Director McDonald.
Through the chair to council, in general, and council to Councillor Millet's question, certainly there are a number of public polling tools that we can use. The challenge you have is policing them to make sure that small numbers of people aren't using them over and over again. We can do that. There are ways to do that. I think it's important, again, as Mayor Panchuk said, is that you as council members are also taking lots of feedback, that staff are listening to the public input that they're getting, that comes back to you on the 14th in the report that you'll consider. Certainly we can get something up very quickly. If that's the direction council gives tonight, we can work with IT and make sure that there is something up very prominently on our website and that our social media streams are feeding people there. But then all of that combined for the 14th for your consideration. So certainly the answer to that is yes.
Councillor Millet.
Yeah, quickly, I don't want to monopolize this. If there's some way, as you said, I'm not looking for anything elaborate. I know Prince Edward County's gone out and hired a third-party firm to carry this out. I don't think we need to do that. I was simply asking if the mechanism is there internally, and I think after speaking to Mark Coyle last week, I believe it is, and you can limit the number of comments by IP address. There's a simple way to do that as well, again, so that somebody doesn't take over the conversation. But I just think it's important that we offer the people who, it's a pretty big step. It's, say what you will about marijuana, there's still some people in the community that have some serious concerns about selling it here, where we're going to sell it, how we're going to sell it, and I just think those people deserve to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, just follow up on Councillor Chris Millet's comments. Are we planning on an open meeting with the public? Is it too short to do that in the new year? Have a special council meeting, or not a special council meeting, but an open where people are able to come and give some dialogue? It comes from, Chris said, it is a major step, and in the dialogue, we need to decide where we're going to operate it. It's on the main street, there's it on a side street. Do we have a chance to have that open dialogue with the public?
Well, I can tell you we hadn't made plans for having a fully public meeting, and it wasn't because we didn't want one. It's, the information that we now have in your report is available to the public. I encourage people to read that and to speak with all of us. As we said, I have no issue with working with Director McDonald and trying to see if we can get something as an electronic form. It won't be scientific per se, but it would be something that could be part of that information. But this is a slight, it is a bit of a controversial issue, and certainly if it's the will of council to have a public meeting where we have people come up and speak to both sides of the issue, that's a possibility. But let's see how the rest of the conversation goes. Do you have anything else? Okay, good. Councillor Williams?
Am I on? Here we go. I would definitely echo what Councillor Millet had said, just for the point that I think that we can get feedback from our residents, but it's nice to have a link to be able to get that. and not just, you know, have some hearsay or have letters or whatever. I think this day and age, just to have a form that goes out, it has maybe 4 or 5 simple questions with a description on it, and something that's just approved will just enable us to get more, and I think that's what we need right now. I think there are a lot of opinions out there, and there's a lot of information that we do have, and we can forward that information we do have to those constituents, but I would prefer to have a link that's just created very simply that allows us to get that back and allows us to get a report, and hopefully then maybe with that we can get a report to council that has that before the January 14th meeting. I don't know how much time we'll need. I'm not sure what the other municipalities in our region have approved on their timing. Councillor Millett, I think you read that one report, but you can just ask the press that are here.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll go through the conversation, then I'll ask Manager Coyle to come up and just talk about the timing, getting us a report if possible, because I'm getting the sense that we want that part for sure, but let's see how the rest of the conversation goes. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, just to get that information and then get to the 14th.
Okay, well, I'll get that before we go to vote. Councillor Kelly, you're next, and then McCaw.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on what Councillor Millett said and some others have alluded to. The issue I have with asking the community for a survey is, it always comes back, I deal with this in my personal life, is how many are responding? We can't have it where there's 70 or 80 people responding because we don't know if the fix is in. So if the deadline is January at the next meeting on the 14th, sample size is really important with this issue. If we're representing 50,000 people, and this is a serious conversation, I don't think 70 or 80 people can decide on what the city's going to do. So I'm all about sample size, and we have to find a way to get that sample size out. And I know we can use social media sites. I'm at the belief it might almost be making calls to people and hiring a third party to do it if this issue is that serious, because 70 or 80 people doesn't pass the smell test.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Kelly. Councillor McCaw.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Panchak. Thinking about that sample size, we really are limited in time. If I read the report properly, and just if I didn't, just let me know now. If we opted out, we still have the option to opt in later. Did I understand that correctly in the report?
I'll submit that to Director Beauvais.
Okay.
Through the chair to Councillor McCaw, as we've outlined in the report, once you opt in, you're in for good. If you opt out, there will be an opportunity in the future to opt in. The one caveat that I would include is the province hasn't told us when you may be able to opt back in. If that's 6 months from now or a few years from now, they haven't given us those details.
So if I could follow up to that. With that in mind, I would think it would be nice if we could enclose something in every tax bill coming out in the spring, or somehow reaching out. There are people that aren't on the internet. So we're missing that group of people that may not even know how to fill out a form on the internet. So if there's some way we could reach out to the public, to every household, with that in mind and asking for their input and feedback, at least we know we've reached everybody that we possibly could. But, you know, and tried to get as much information as we could. We don't have time for that now, I would say, but if we decided to opt out, that gives us time to you know, do a real massive, we could address it with many citizens and try to get some true feedback. And if we find that we want to opt in later, that option's there. If the public feedback indicates that, you know, they're not interested in us opting in, well, we're already out. So I don't see anything to lose by opting out now and going to the public for as much feedback, whether that be sending out notices in tax bills or something like that. You know, that would probably give us, you know, what we need.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Millett is next.
Yeah, further to Councillor Kelly's comments, I don't think what we're looking for here is actually a plebiscite, an online plebiscite, anything in that regard. I was simply trying to gauge community sentiment on the issue. Let's not forget that as far back as May 2018, Council already directed staff to prepare a community standards bylaw to regulate medical marijuana facilities. We're well down the road on this in terms of cannabis in the community. We've only got to look 12K down the road to Tynanaga. Pot's here, folks, but how are we going to regulate it in our own municipality is, I think, and that's what we're looking for, is a direction on that regard. So it's, again, Sean, it's not, we're not looking to maybe gauge number of votes on this. It's not a plebiscite, but simply to, you know, get as much comment, and Councillor McCaw's comments as well are valid, but I think, you know, drawing the process out any further, as I understand, there are already commercial outlets looking to set up shop as soon as we give the green light here. Only we have to set the parameters, so that's what this is all about.
Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is free enterprise, and this is the law. And I read the report carefully, at least I hope I did, and through you to Director Bove, the public should understand that we are making a decision whether to accept and go ahead with selling of marijuana in the community through shops, or whether to not do that now and wait until later. As His Worship mentioned, we do not know the repercussions of not opting in. We know that once we're in forever. We don't know what happens exactly if we opt out. I suspect that down the road we will be opting in, but could you explain through you, Your Worship, Director Bove, what the current financial implications are? Isn't there an amount of money per household for opting in now and a penalty if we do not?
Thank you, Director Bove.
Through the chair to Councillor Culhane, there is some funds that the province is providing that is calculated on a per household basis, and it currently works out to about $59,000 that the city would receive, and then there would be additional funds that would be probably much less than that if the city opts in. If the city opts out, there wouldn't be any additional funds. In addition to that, just hearing the discussion, I want to make it clear, if the city opts in, the city does not have any say in where these stores are going to go. So you're not going to be setting any parameters for these stores. The province will do that. They've already set out, and we've detailed it in the report, there are some setbacks from schools and things of that nature, but the province will decide where those stores will go. They will allow the community to provide some input before that decision is made, but we will not be able to regulate where those stores go.
All right, thank you. Councillor Williams.
One thing I think when it comes to getting input and just feedback is something I'm interested in, is just who is looking to apply to open retail stores. And I'm wondering through Director Post, or if you've seen any inquiries so far from the community, or if that's information that we can receive during and prior to the 14th meeting. But would just be interesting to know of who might be interested, just to get a sense. I think that's going to have a little bit of determinant of what we're looking at. Now, just like Director Millette mentioned, there are about 70 or what have you just west of us or east of us. And again, I'd be interested just for information to know what kind of inquiries we're getting so far, and do we have any sense of who are looking to open those?
Sure. Manager Karen Post is in, or do you want to handle it, Director Bove?
Well, certainly through you to Councillor Williams, we do get occasional calls from people saying, I'm interested in applying, wanting to know what the regulations are. We simply refer them to the province. It's a process that they have to apply through the province. The application period will open next Monday, December 17th.
It's completely run through the province. As I say, the province, if they identify a location that they want to issue a license for, they will provide the community with an opportunity to comment for 15 days, after which they will make a decision whether or not to issue a license. But occasionally we do get calls from people from all across the country, I think, who maybe don't understand really what the province is doing in terms of their model, and we simply refer them to the province and the information available online.
Great, thank you. Councillor Standison.
Thank you. So Director Bovey touched on the comment I was going to make, but jumping back to Councillor Millet's earlier suggestion that we conduct a survey, I think it's a good idea. As we lead up to the January 14th meeting, we're really preparing for a response or a deadline that is January 22nd. So similar to what they've done in Kingston, I think we should conduct a survey, even though we're going to have to manage it through the Christmas vacation period. In order to get that back, we should try and put as much information on that survey in terms of informing the public. So things like, we don't control the location. We don't control the number of licenses that are going to be issued, just so that when people are filling it in, they understand how their input's going to be used. So, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Panchak. So, back in the summer, we attended AMO, and they did a large presentation to all the municipalities. And it was interesting because on one side of the stage, you had the municipal folks, some operational, the police, CEO of Napanee, and public health, and actually municipal litigation. Then on the other side, you had the bureaucrats from the province. And it was interesting to watch because as the operational folks were talking about its impact to the municipality, the bureaucrats were writing ferociously because they're making it up as they go along. And the province isn't too far ahead of us, and we're only one step behind. But the reality is, it's legal. It's a $7 billion criminal enterprise that the federal government has identified to try to erode. The fact of the matter is, and some of the penalties of not opting out, which again, and I agree, we need to hear from the public, and certainly I think that resonates amongst all of us here. The reality is, opting out not only disqualifies you from that $59,000, which is peanuts in my estimation, but also doesn't allow the municipality then to have 50% of the $100 million or more on the excise tax. So there's additional revenue, which is outlined in the report. So again, it's unfortunate, but the province has basically said if you would like some money, it's better to opt in. If you opt out, the money might not necessarily be there. I have concerns that we weren't able to have any say in terms of zoning, limiting the number. The licensing, and I've done a lot of research actually, and the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario has an actual registrar standard for private sale. And it's actually quite thorough. It even talks about the physical store requirements, a secure high-resolution surveillance system, a well-secure building. So it's pretty rigorous. In terms of the applicants, they have to go through a financial test, investigated through the Alcohol and Gaming Commission, which does also have 150 Ontario provincial police officers attached to it. So there's a rigorous background check as well. Obviously, if we're going to get into the legalization, we want to make sure that the criminals are now shut out. So it's actually quite rigorous, the process there. My biggest concern, Mayor Panchak, is when we get to when it's operationalized and existing in our community, what does that mean in terms of police enforcement and things of that nature? My biggest concern with the $59,000 is that's not going to go very far. And I'm not going to speculate, but I can envision some of our partners in law enforcement and different things coming to the podium come operation budget time asking for money. Now, according to AMO, it says the federal government has provided funds to police forces for training, and the Ontario government is working with the OPP and municipal police forces to increase the number of officers trained in the standard field sobriety test and drug recognition experts. Then it talks about some money going to public health. So my hope is that through AMO, municipalities continue to advocate both senior levels of government to fund those bigger operations. The $59,000 the City of Belleville is going to get is simply, I think, at this point, a public education campaign and nothing more. So I think this information has to be put out there. The report's very comprehensive and actually quite good in terms of providing some good information to the public. I think that needs to be forefront as it stands now, and no disrespect to staff, but this is buried in our agenda, which you do have to find a few mouse clicks away. Given the prominence of this issue, the fact that I think all members are looking for information, we need to make this report front and center on the city website. I would suggest also some print advertisement with enough details to say, here's what happens if we opt in, here's what happens if we opt out, and then some contact information or how somehow to get that information through. I'm a little concerned about a survey because that they may not necessarily read everything they need to read, and I don't want to get caught up in the, well, we don't want it in our community, because the fact of the matter is it's here. It's prominent on a legal level. I'm going to be very frank. There's that many operations in the community next door cannot exist in its current form unless there is some criminal activity involved. That's clear. So the reality is it's around us. So we have to take the right steps to make sure that we're balancing that out. So I think the information needs to get out there, and it needs to get out in a very comprehensive way. So I guess that's a long way of saying to make sure we put it front and center out to the community.
Good. Thank you very much. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I just want to say great comments by Councillor Carr. Just to get back to if the city does move with forward on a website and asking for response, that the information is there. My question is, who is going to come up with the questions? Would it be city staff, or they would consult with some of us here at the council table? How does that work? What's the process for that, so we can have some engagement with staff to come up with possible questions or what we're hoping to get back?
Sure, and what I would envision is that you know, there will be some type of a non-scientific, non-binding online poll, which will have the report that we have in our package, as well as the background information from the provincial ministry as on there with a link to it, so people can read that, and then they will vote. Councillor Carr is 100% right that you can provide all the information you want. Not everyone will read it, so some of the people's selection may not be based on fact. But it's an opportunity for us to have as a bit of a gauge of what the community is saying, in addition to our own work as we spend the next month talking to people in the community. So, you know, I don't want to get into debate, because when you're in committee of the whole here, the chair shouldn't be debating. But what I just want to mention a couple of things. You know, between now and the 14th, I would encourage any members of the public who have an opinion, following up on Councillor Thompson's suggestion about the public meeting, they should make a written submission that will come to submitted to the city clerk. That will be part of your package for the January 14th meeting. So every letter that comes in with a position on cannabis retail outlets would be part of our package. We will work tomorrow to have that appropriate online presence for some type of a poll. And then we'll make sure that's part of the package for the meeting on the 14th, or before, but at least for the 14th to prepare you for it. I want to ask Director Beauvais, Mr. Thomas Deming did this report. Is this his first report to City Council? Yeah. Can you please offer him our congratulations? This is his first report he's done. Very thorough, very well done. You know, we have great staff do lots of great reports, but I think on the occasion of his first one, we should give him a kudo for that. So that was great. You know, my colleagues, unfortunately, we have a hard deadline of January 22nd. We have to make a decision. If we make a decision to opt in, we have some information. If we make a decision not to opt in, we don't know when we will be allowed to change our minds if we are. We're being told we are, but we have been told a number of things through this whole process that has changed. You know, when we were at the AMO conference last year, there was lots of talk about respecting the municipality's role in determining, you know, the suitability of where and how, and then this latest version took it all away from us. So now they're basically imposing it. They're using the Smoke Free Act as the basis for this, which is highly improper. We should have more of an ability to control these, but we don't make those rules. So the Association of Municipalities of Ontario will continue to work with the province, and I anticipate some further changes, but we don't know what they are. We still have to go ahead with this. The biggest concern I have is that if we're going to opt in, we don't want to put our retailers that might be considering opening in Belleville at a disadvantage. We want to give them enough notice so they can go through their process of designing their outlets, making sure they're safe, they're secure, and that they're open for April the 1st. You know, opting out, we don't know when we would get back in, and we all know that there is an illegal presence now of retail cannabis in the area, and we don't want to further, I think we don't want to further disadvantage them. And I say that not through debate, but just as sort of the situation. Again, we hear you loud and clear. I think that I hope the suggestion of that non-scientific, non-binding online poll, coupled with the call for written submissions to come to us for our next package, I hope that satisfies the external wishes for feedback. And then again, you know, I'm putting the community on notice. If they have an opinion on cannabis, the 9 of us that were just elected, we're open for hearing from them, and we're happy to spend our Christmas holidays talking about cannabis. Anything new? Councillor Thompson.
Just a question. If we were to use our own social media, not that I'm a big social media guy, but our own social media, is there wording out there that we could put out to our contacts to get some replies?
Sure. I would suggest that you follow up with the city clerk. They'll be able to provide you advice, just like when you're dealing with motions or everything else. Mr. McDonald's there for you, and you know, give him until noon tomorrow so that he can speak to Marilyn Warren and Mark Coyle, just to sort of get our end set up, and we can help you with that. Anything for something new? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Paychuk. The Interdepartmental Cannabis Working Group, and that was a motion I put forward back in December of last year. I think it's important for the report that will come to Council with the recommendation or the options, if you will, that we also include some of our external partners. I'd like to hear comment from the Belleville Police Service. What do we have in terms of illegal storefronts now, if any? What's their opinion on some of this, as well as the health unit? I think it's important that we collectively hear what all these groups have to say, in addition to the citizens, because this is a partnership, obviously, that we're going to continue going forward.
We can undertake that we will put that request out, but nonetheless, we have to make a decision at the January 14th meeting because the 22nd is coming. So, you know, I understand everyone's. This is a you know, a big issue and it's controversial, but we're not setting the rules. We're having to live with them, and we've got there. So we have a motion that's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. We've had lots of discussion for it to come back on January 14th. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 8A3, City of Belleville Grant Committee Recommendations, the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report, DF 2018-27, and the resolution is that the City of Belleville Grant Committee recommends the following to City Council for approval: that applications should be submitted at least 60 days before the event instead of the 120 days, and that the Social Infrastructure Fund be increased to 10% of casino revenue, up from the current 5%, and that the maximum amount for a social infrastructure application be increased to $50,000, up from the current $10,000, and that the committee review and amend the requirements for social infrastructure funding. Let's get it on the floor. Can I have a motion? Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Culhane. Any discussion? Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Your Worship. I agree with a couple of statements in here. I like the idea of reducing the number of days from 120 down to 60. I think the great idea of going from 5% to 10% for infrastructure, or for social infrastructure funding. The only thing I got a little concerned with, and I had a brief discussion with you earlier about going from 10 to 50. You know, we're increasing it from, we're approximately going to get $300,000. That's approximate for this infrastructure from this casino money for the social infrastructure funding. And with doubling it from 5 to 10, I would be more in favor of going at a different amount rather than 50, and I'm going to see what it goes around the table, maybe possibly make an amendment. But one question I have before I do that, in the requirements for this, would they be doing this once a year, or would the applications come in and we would approve it at different times, or just once a year?
So I can't answer that question now because the new committee, once we populate it, will be struck and they will decide that process. Last time we did it once per year, and we had about $150,000 in 2018, so this would double it to $300,000. I would anticipate, if someone was asking me for my opinion as the past chair of the committee, I would say we should do it in one, call for applications and do it. The $50,000, right now, this past year we were limited to 10,000, and we had about 15 applications that we were able to fund. $10,000 is a lot of money, and it's special, and it makes a difference. $50,000 starts making changes now to organizations and structures, but it is the maximum. I would remind everybody. It doesn't mean that the committee would have to do it. As I explained to you, and I'll explain to everyone else, typically when the committee meets, you know, you take a look at how many valid applications you have, and then you look at how much they're asking and how much you have, and you try to spread it around so that everyone who you can possibly give some money to, it works. Some years you have more applications, some years you have less. And the council the grant committee only makes recommendations to council. Council still will have the ability to say, no, we don't agree with this amount of that, we want to lower it and increase someone else's or whatnot. But you know, the committee went through their year. We had these are recommendations that came forward based on the first year of dealing with it. Just for the new councillors, the committee used to meet quarterly. And then with the demand from the community for requests for municipal services and assistance, we moved to a monthly meeting, but we didn't change the deadline requirements. So now that we're meeting more frequently, we don't need as much time on the lead-in. So that's why the reduction from 120 days to 60 days, because the committee's meeting monthly. So.
Yeah, and just to finish up, I'm thinking of a different amount. I was thinking approximately 30,000, and that really would triple the amount of the amount that they would be allowed to get. And by going to 30, it certainly gives us still a broad coverage of the different agencies that need our money. So I'll see how the discussion goes, and but I like the idea of the 5 to 10 and the less days. So
good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mallette.
Thank you, Chair Panchik, and thank you, Councillor Thompson. I, on the election campaign, spoke to a lot of people on the strengthening of our social safety net, and I'm happy to see that we are going to increase from 5 to 10, and it's important for so many groups out there that are struggling. And I mean, without them, we would see our policing, our courts, our hospital costs skyrocket. So it's very important. I share to some extent Councillor Thompson's concern about the maximum ceiling for each group, increase from 10,000 to 50,000 per application. Not so much that I want to see less money go to any of these groups. I just think that if we have a lower threshold, it is triple what it is already. I just think we can spread that money a little farther if we are not giving out $50,000 grants. Now, I understand your point that that is the ceiling and it's not necessarily, but still, I just think that we can do more work for more agencies if we had it capped at less than 50. I'm just concerned we'd burn through the 300 K before long. That's my only concern. So if we were to possibly, if Councillor Thompson wants to amend the recommendation, put forward an amendment, I would support 30,000, but I think 50 may, again, eat up that fund a little too quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, it's extremely courteous of both of you to allow the discussion first before, because you can make the amendment right now and then you basically kind of hijack the process. But it's very courteous of you to allow it to go around. I will let you have that opportunity for sure. But thank you for that. Councillor Culhane.
I tend to go with the chair and the new members of the grant committee. I sat on it, but it was some years ago. I don't remember specific social infrastructure applications. Things have changed since those days. We have the casino with its expected issues, secondary to addiction in some cases. There are a number of very worthy groups supporting the neediest in our city. We would love to fund them all. I'm sure the people in the public would love to fund them all. We can't. But I don't have an objection to increasing the amount of the application, given that each member of the committee will consider each application and recognize that the fund is capped. I don't want to handicap them right from the outset.
Good, thank
you.
Anyone else? Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, I think it's great that there's going to be the increase up to 10%, and it's giving those in need a helping hand. And as you mentioned, Mayor, talking about this, is that the $50,000 will be decided by the committee. So we have to believe in good faith that they're going to make the right decisions. They'll hear the stories and decide. So I'm with the 50,000.
And ultimately, just to be clear again, that it'll be a recommendation that comes to City Council. City Council will be able to ask questions, they'll be able to make amendments, they can debate it. I think in the last term, only 3 occasions did City Council overturn the decision of the committee, and that was to allow funding for groups that we turned down. So, it's there, but the committee doesn't have the authority to make the decision. It has to come back to City Council. Anyone else? Councillor Sanderson?
Thank you, Chair Panchuk. 2 questions. One, do we have an understanding how many grant requests last year were in the $50,000 range?
There were none, because the maximum last year was $10,000.
Oh, okay. So people knew ahead of time not to submit. Okay. And so I too support the increase from 5 to 10%, but just curious as to what's going down by 5%.
Well, we will make that decision during the operating budget when we look at it. We have a number of options. We can shave a point off the different categories, or the infrastructure fund is 65% now, and we can take the full take it from 65 to 60, but it'll be a decision that we make at that point. Basically, what we're doing is we're giving direction to the committee to be able to start when it's populated, to start its process for a call, and then have an idea of what they're going to be spending, and then we'll enable that through the adjustments in the operating budget. Okay. Thank you. And if we approve this, the treasurer will bring a report to the next meeting in January where we can debate exactly where the funds will come from. Thank you. Okay, anything else? So, Councillor Thompson, if you want to make an amendment, I'll recognize that now. Go ahead.
I'll make an amendment that we reduce the maximum amount from 50 to 30.
Yeah. So the application be increased to 30,000.
Yes.
Up from the current 10,000.
Yeah.
Seconded by Councillor Millette. Any discussion on the amendment? All right. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Have a recorded vote, please.
Councillor Councillor McCaw is going to call for our first recorded vote. Did you bring anything today? Okay, good.
Shame. For what?
So again, just to be clear, this is the amendment on the main motion, which would be to change the maximum amount on the social infrastructure application from 50,000 down to the new amount of 30,000. Go ahead.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Culhane? No. Councillor Kelly?
No.
Councillor Millette?
Yes.
Councillor McCaw?
No.
Councillor Sanderson?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Williams? No. Mayor Panchuk?
No.
Motion fails.
Our first 5-4. Excellent. Good. So the regular motion, the unamended motion is back on the floor. I'll call the question on this. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Isn't that fun? There we go. 8A4. Proposed Sens Rink, Ottawa Senators Foundation, Belleville Senators, Rotary Club of Belleville, and the City of Belleville. Director, Recreation, Culture, and Community Service Report, number DRCCS-2018-11. The resolution is that management be directed to engage in a process with the Ottawa Senators Foundation, Belleville Senators, and the Rotary Club of Belleville to investigate the feasibility and related plan to see the potential installation of a Sens Rink in Belleville, Ontario, and further that management report back to City Council with a plan that outlines all aspects involving, including but not limited to, a potential location, exact makeup of the said Sens Rink complex now and into the future, proposed costs and related proposed financial model and commitments of all partners involved for Council's consideration in time for the 2019 annual capital budget. Can I get it on the floor? Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Culhane. Discussion. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. Just a question through you to Director Fleur. I know that this is going to be investigated. I think this is a great project for our community. The investigation on the feasibility and related plan, will that be an in-house investigation, or are you looking to hire any consultants to do that work?
Yeah. Director Fleur.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk, through you to Councillor Carr. No, we'll be doing that internally and working with our community organizations. Consulting with the public will be done through in-house methods, et cetera.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Question, when they bring them back the cost, like on page 47, it says site requirements, structure for changing facility, will that be in the report on the cost of it? Or is that sort of something they do later on after the rink is built?
Director Fleur?
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk, through you to Councillor Thompson. We're going to come back with a plan that'll probably show you a feasibility that'll also include options for your consideration around phasing in. So, for example, and I think Ryan Laflamme alluded to that, we've had a couple of meetings both with the Ottawa Senators Foundation and with the Rotary Group to outline what they saw. And I think there were a number of discussions around what this might look like. And what, as Ryan identified, the Rotary Club would love to see this being a full facility that could be used year-round that meets many needs and requirements. So with that said, he already said, like, for example, and something we're looking into is refrigeration, as we all know that we have very few days that we can depend on a naturally frozen rink. And we're also looking at, from a programming perspective, if we want to expand opportunities around that, then we want to put in at least shelters and things of that nature. So yes, that'll come back along with a number of other options for consideration. And one of the key components of this is funding, and the funding model is Rotary would love to see, along with the foundation from Ottawa and the NHL, I'd like to see that we have a plan that comes back that puts minimal pressure on taxpayers, but maximizes opportunity for the community. So you'll probably see that along with a number of options that we'll provide you for consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Panchuk. To Director Fleur, when bringing back that report, will it include any examples that, like the template they were using with other municipalities, you know, what their expectations are of this city and the taxpayers versus, you know, how they basically structured the 15 other, or maybe 15 is a lot to ask for, but at least 5 of the 15. I wouldn't mind seeing the, like the template used, how it actually, you know, who did what and who paid what and all of that. Again, ideally 15 would be great, but that's asking a lot. I'd be happy with 5. Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor McCaw. Absolutely, we'll look at other examples, provide you with some information, like, for example, what the Senator's donations were, contributions from community groups, ongoing contributions for maintenance and ongoing inputs for programming, and the model around, some of the contributions and how that was done and how it was financed. We'll bring that back for your consideration, and I think 5 is a reasonable number, but if we can throw others in, we'll certainly do that.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Panchuk, to Director Fleur. As I read the report, it looks like this thing kicked off in November, so just a few weeks ago. And page 36 references a Belleville Sens Rink Community Task Force. When was the task force put together, and do they have an existing mandate?
Sure. Director Fleur.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. Through you to Councillor Sanderson. It was an informal group that basically formed, meaning as in the Rotary Club had contacted my office, as well as had in the past communicated with the former mayor. Also wanted to have a discussion with us around the development of a community rink, but at the same time, the municipality had some communication with the Ottawa Senators Foundation, and that they had, when we were early on in the process, when we signed the agreement with the Belleville Senators, as you know, the owner of the Belleville Senators is the same owner as the Ottawa Senators, and is also the chair of the foundation, expressed an interest in having Belleville as a potential site for a community rink in the future, and that, of course, was way back. So the actual forming of any task force, I just put it in there to make it sound pretty important, was to tell you that we have that group together. The mandate is essentially bringing it to council for your direction to start to move ahead. We haven't really formulated any preconceived notions, other than what we do know is that the foundation itself will get money from the NHL. The foundation is looking at funding from their perspective as well. They have a model, as identified by Councillor McCaw, that are out there for a number of other examples that we've looked at briefly to consider where we're going. But before anything was decided and anything was said, I urged the group to consider going to council as soon as possible, and that was today, to present you with an opportunity to give direction to city management to then work with those groups and come back with a plan. So that's where we stand at this moment in time.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. The entire report is very detailed, and we have it here. I'm happy to see that the task force through city management will report back to council with a very detailed list of things. I think there are a lot of our concerns around the table. The project outline, what's involved, how long will it take, phases of the capital funding model, monies, and I think, I hear Councillor McCaw. She's very much concerned, and with good reason. Who's going to pay for it? Yeah. It's all well and good that we have this. I think the biggest fight is going to be where you're going to put this thing, but that's besides the point. But I will support this simply to hear it come back. But again, I agree with Councillor McCaw. I'd like to hear what some of the other municipalities' experiences have been on this, as well as what's outlined in the report here. So,
yeah. Great, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Carr?
Thank you. Just ask for a recorded vote, please.
Sure. And before we do that, I just want to make a couple of comments. First of all, it's very exciting that we're even in the mix to be considering this type of a project. And sometimes when people hear such good news, they jump to certain conclusions. And I do want to clear up something, because I heard it this morning. One site that we will not be considering for this facility, I can tell you, is the Memorial Arena. And I know there's been some discussion that this is slated to go there, and I can assure everybody that that is not the case. That is something that we can just clear up now before it goes down too far, and have that there. But Councillor Carr has asked for a recorded vote. I'll let the clerk prepare himself and be ready.
Councillor Culhane?
Yes.
Councillor Kelly?
Yes.
Councillor Millette?
Yes.
Councillor McCaw?
Yes.
Councillor Sandison?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Mayor Panchak?
Unanimous, yes. Good, thank you. It passes. 8A5, Pinnacle Playhouse, the DL Story Building Pinnacle Street Theatre Marquee Sign Project. Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services Report, number DRCCS-2018-12. The resolution is that Council approve the installation of a marquee sign to be installed by the Pinnacle Street Theatre Company on the DL Story building on Pinnacle Street, a building that is owned by the City of Belleville and has as its principal purpose a community theatre and performance venue for the Pinnacle Street Theatre Company. And further, that Council approve a contribution of $25,000 towards this project to act as partial funding of the estimated total project of $94,000. And further, that Council approve the source of funding for the $25,000 contribution by the City from the proceeds of the Casino Fund under the category of infrastructure. And further, that the 2019 pre-budget capital budget approval be granted for the marquee sign project. So you'll note I added that word approval because we're basically proposing to fund it out of next year's revenue, but we're giving pre-budget approval. So when we start our budget, we will already have spent $25,000, et cetera. So can I get a motion on the table to approve it? Councillor McCaw and Councillor Sandison. Any discussion? Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to ask a question about process. I completely support the Pinnacle Playhouse, and I urge anyone who's never been there to just take the time and go, because it's a gem in our community. There's uncountable numbers of volunteer hours that support it. I had a brief opportunity to take part in a one-act play, and it was an experience like no other. I support the resolution. I just want to ask about the pre-budget approval process, which I don't recall.
Okay. Director Cousins, do you want to just give us a very short tutorial on how pre-budget approval affects the capital budget process?
Well,
Through the chair.
If I may, excuse me. I certainly grasp that.
Oh, sorry.
But is there precedent for that? I don't recall that being asked of us before.
Go ahead.
Through the chair to Councillor Culhane, previous councils have dealt with various issues before we do the capital budget and have given pre-budget approval. Normally, we do the capital budget in the fall for the next year because we have been a lame duck council since July. We haven't been able to do anything with respect to the 2019 operating and/or capital budget issues, and so that's why this report is in December. We have never met for the capital budget for 2019, so to get the ball rolling, this project needs pre-budget approval by council to go forward.
Thank you, Director Cousins. Then I support it completely.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I just want to say Mr. Tucker did a good presentation, and we have to support the arts. And I don't know about the digital sign, though, he was talking about. If you go to Toronto, you know you're in the theatre district when you're at Mervish Theatres with all the lights. Bring back some showbiz and maybe do some old school instead of the digital. That's just me.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Okay, the motion's on the floor. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 8B, consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. So, my colleagues, there are 9 items in this area. If there's one that you would like to have any discussion, if you have questions or you'd like to debate, you can just identify them when I call your name and we'll pull it. Then we'll have a motion to approve the other ones and then come back to those specifically. So I'll start with Councillor Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
No.
Councillor McCaw.
No, thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
Councillor Culhane.
One question on 8B8, please.
8. Councillor Williams.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sandison.
No, thank you.
Councillor Millette.
Yes, I have one question on 8B3.
Okay. So the motion is that the following agenda items be approved with the exception of 8B3 and 8B8. So a motion to approve those ones, so that's by consent. Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor McCaw. All in favor? It's carried. So we'll start with 8B3, which is Councillor Millette. So we'll get a motion to put it on the floor. And the motion is the amendment to Schedule C, Schedule D, Schedule G to bylaw number 2010-10, fees and charges. Director of Finance Treasurer's Report DF 2018-28. The resolution is that a bylaw to amend Schedule C, Schedule D, Schedule G to bylaw 2010-10, being a bylaw to establish fees and charges, be prepared for Council's consideration. So to get it on the floor, the motion is moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor McCaw. Councillor Millette.
Thank you. I don't want to belabor the point. I just a quick question through you, Mr. Chair, to I believe it would be Mr. Cousins. How do we compare in these these application fee increases? Once we increase this, how do we compare with our neighbor municipalities as it reflects these numbers? For instance, and I have no problem whatsoever, by the way, for the record, seeing anybody who's planning to take an apartment and condominiumize it, and so jacking their fees is God's work, if you ask me. But how do we compare? Getting back to my original question.
Sure. Thank you, Director Cousins.
To the chair, to Councillor Millette, may I defer to Director Beauvais, who's basically provided this information to me?
Sorry, thank you. I finance. Director Beauvais.
Through the chair to Councillor Millette. We look at our fees, we take a look at surrounding municipalities, we look at when was the last time we had increased them. We compare very favorably to immediate surrounding areas. Compared to other parts of the province, we're an absolute bargain.
Yeah, I was more concerned with our immediate neighbors and just wanted to remain competitive, but yeah, thank you very much.
Great. Any other questions or comments? All right, the motion's on the floor. All in favor? It's carried. 8C, Council Information Matters. I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. 8B8, Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Officer. The resolution is that a bylaw to appoint a municipal bylaw enforcement officer for 26 North Park Street and 178, 180, and 182 Charles Street be prepared for Council's consideration. I need a motion to get it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Councillor Carr, you move the motion. I know Councillor Culhane raised the issue, but do you want to speak to it first? Okay. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you. I just want to ask through you, and I should have gone down the street and looked, but what is 178, 180, 182 Charles Street? What are those numbers? Are they residential? Are they business?
Right. I'll ask Director McDonald to answer that.
Through the chair to Councillor Culhane. Off the top of my head, I don't recall what they are. The reality is we receive requests throughout the year, and you'll see these on almost every council meeting, for individuals to be bylawed on private property. And it's so that they can enforce parking that is offending them on private property. And it may be commercial or it may be residential, and if it's multi-residential, it may be multiple units, but it's for people that are offending them and offending the bylaw.
I know now. It's for people to be sworn to have the power to write tickets for apartment buildings or whatever.
That's
okay,
correct.
thank you. Should have asked you before.
Anyone else on this? Okay, so all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Now we'll go to 8C, Council Information Matters. And because there's only one item this meeting, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive the Building Section Month-End Report for the report period November 2018, moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Williams. Any discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. It's received. So thank you, colleagues, for getting through Committee of the Whole. We're now going to go back to the General Council meeting. So I need a motion to rise and report. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? It's carried. All right, and then after we approve the bylaw for the acting mayors of the month, then another member of council will have chaired committee of the whole, and so it'll run much smoother. Number 9, bylaws. Following the first and second reading of bylaws, members may debate the bylaw under consideration. So I'm going to ask for first reading of bylaws. Bylaws number 2018-197, -198, -199, -200, -201, 202, 203, 204, 205, and 206. Can I get a motion to approve those first reading of those bylaws? Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor? It's carried. Second reading of bylaws and discussion. 2018-197, 198, 199, 200, 201, 202, 203, 204, 205, and 206. Can I get a motion for that? Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on any of those bylaws? All right, all in favor? It's carried. And third and final reading of bylaws 2018-197, 198, 199, 200, 201, 202, 203, 204, 205, and 206. A motion moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Sandison. All in favor? It's carried. Number 10, new business. I do have one item which we will deal with after. Does anyone else have any new business? So, whoops. We'll start with Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. Through my campaign in the last several months, and in just talking to people in general, Your Worship, we have a great waterfront, a great asset waterfront, and we've spent a lot of money in downtown. And of that, the only thing that we're missing right now is activities and people, for the most part. And something you'll hear from me quite consistently through the next 4 years are entrepreneurs are the answer to some of those problems we face, if it's generating people or activities, what have you. And activities will drive people to both downtown and to waterfront, and activities and we're looking for activities that can attract and retain our normal population, but also our youth. Something we've heard quite often is there's not a lot to do. So some of those activities we're looking at include SUP paddleboard rental, kayak rentals, boat tours, bike rentals, and horse-drawn carriage tours, just to name a few. So I just have an item to bring as a formal request, and to Mr. McDonald, I'll hand this to you so you can have a formal copy. As part of a plan to populate our waterfront downtown and encourage entrepreneurship, I'd like to request a staff report from Economic Development be prepared for the next council meeting that will provide council with information on how we can implement a Belleville downtown and waterfront pop-up shop project in the spring of 2019. This project would engage entrepreneurs in the development of waterfront and or downtown pop-up shops that would serve the needs of waterfront and downtown attraction and population. The report should detail an RFP process, priority outcomes for the project, key data desired, realistic timeline, and will indicate what in-kind budget or pre-budget funding will be required. Specifically on this with entrepreneurs, we will probably, hopefully, not be looking for any cash, but simply in-kind, and the way that we can help entrepreneurs just start businesses bring these downtown. So I'll submit this to the clerk for...
Great, and we'll forward that on to Ms. Post. Thank you very much. Councillor Sandison.
Thank you, Mayor Painchuk. My question is with respect to the portable sign public consultation that was conducted in November. Just wonder if we have a status update or can tell us what the next steps are in the process.
Sure, thank you. I'll direct that to Director Beauvais.
Through the chair to Councillor Sandison, we've talked a lot about surveys tonight. We have an active survey on the city website. It will be active until the end of next week. And that allows folks to provide some input on the issue of portable signs. I think there's 7 questions plus an opportunity for people to provide any additional comments that they like. I can tell you that up to today we've had 800 responses. So when that survey closes, we'll go through the responses. Our colleagues in IT have it set up so that they can analyze where those responses came from to ensure that we don't have, a person for or against portable signs submitting multiple responses to skew the results. So very good response, and that echoes, I think, our colleagues in fire had very good response on a survey they did on the burning bylaw. I think you had 900 responses. So certainly if the same survey is put out for the issue of cannabis, I think the city will get a good response. To follow up, once we take a look at the results, we would come back to council some point early in the new year with a report and get some direction from council where we want to go with portable signs.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Sandison, anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for new business? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. This past week, I received a phone call actually from a Ward 1 resident, and she was sharing her story with me how her father is going to be placed in McQuiggy Lodge very soon. And he takes dialysis 3 times a week, and she talked about and actually sung praises regarding Belleville mobility and how it was easy transportation. The bus drivers were very courteous and helpful in getting her father actually into the building. And so her concern was, and she was surprised to learn, as many are, is when you relocate into a different part of the city, suddenly some of those services drop off. And I provided a letter to each of my colleagues here, and what I'm asking for is a motion to receive the correspondence from Ms. O'Neill and be referred to staff for a report. So if I get a motion on the floor, I'll talk to a little bit more.
So, Councillor Carr, you're going to move that motion?
Yes.
Can I get a seconder for that motion? Councillor Sandison? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So just briefly again, and I recognize that in the first conversation I had with her was regarding, of course, the property tax implications, the various service levels. However, she continued to talk to me about her father's current circumstances. I felt that it was necessary that we be creative and we look at opportunities to expand this service. And I know with the great work that Transit's currently doing right now, we seem to be on the cutting edge of a lot of things. And so when I look at the need for this one particular family, this is probably going to be replicated across our city. And I know in speaking with Manager Buck and with General Manager Reed, there is getting more and more demand for the mobility bus throughout the entire city. So I think it's important that we at least start this investigative process. Fortunately for Ms. O'Neill, her and her siblings are able to help with her father's transportation in the interim. But again, the longer term and scheduling and things of that nature made it very difficult. She pointed out that actually the distance from McQuiggy Lodge to the dialysis clinic in Belleville would actually be closer than what he currently experiences where he lives in Ward 1 now. And so I think we have to become creative and not get landlocked in terms of the wards and look out for people like Ms. O'Neill's father and others. So I appreciate a staff report.
Right, any discussion on the motion that Councillor Carr has brought forward? Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Carr, you brought forward a very important medical dilemma, if you like, in this community. This lady's father is by no means the only one who requires this type of service. I think it's great that you've asked for a report. Great that you're looking at the current mobility transport system. I would also just like to inform the group that the Crossroads for Care situated at Bayview Plaza, and inside that umbrella is Community Care for Seniors, and they do assess patients on an individual application basis, and they do provide transportation for medical services. So at the very least, this lady should be directed to them, and I don't have the number here with me right now, but it's in the in-camera room in my purse. I'm happy to give that number out and for you to give that information out. I've been trying to get it out to the community for some time. I know that they're heavily petitioned for transportation, and the need is only going to increase as the age of our residents increases. But we do have an obligation to meet those needs as much as we can. And thank you for your motion. And thank you in advance, staff, for your report.
Anyone else on debate on the motion? Councillor Millette. Councillor Millette, we can this part we have to stand, please.
Oh,
thank you.
Yes, we do. Yeah, my only concern with having staff, you know, I would hope it's a rather broad look at this, because what we have here is an individual situation of a single case dealing with McQuigg Lodge, and I guess the issue of expanding the mobility services to, say, Canifton. You know, I would hope that the study itself or the report itself would come back looking at the broader issues all the way to Foxborough. I know that there are a significant number of senior citizens living, say, in the Foxborough Emmanuel Church residence.
Yeah.
So this is more than, I think, just an issue with McQuigg Lodge. So I would hope that the scope looks a little wider than just, say, Canifton itself. Thank you.
Anyone? I'll let Councillor Carr speak last. It's his motion. Anyone else want to say anything? Let me just add that I agree with Councillor Millette. You know, I heard throughout the election there are many issues with respect to public transportation, and mobility bus is just one of them. We have residents living all over Ward 2 who are really extremely having difficulty, and we know that the fact that we don't have transit in Ward 2 is because of the funding situation, and so I'm sure that when Manager Buck comes back with his report, he will work with Director Cousins to look at maybe some potential funding sources. In the past, we've used our gas tax revenue for a temporary or a pilot project to test out these types of things, but I'll leave it to them. But I think, again, this is a great motion, and Councillor Carr, I'll let you wrap up and we'll have a vote.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk, and Councillor Millette makes a very good point, and this letter is just one mere example of others, and as I shared this example with staff, they pointed out that there's demand throughout the community further into the ward. So this here is just a real-life example of other examples that I'm sure they exist. And like I said, speaking with with Manager Buck, made it sound as though there's a demand. So it'll be a more comprehensive review, I anticipate.
Great, thank you. The motion's on the floor. It's been seconded. All in favor? It's carried. Any other new business for anybody? Okay, so I have a motion, and just before I do that, I'll just let the gallery know we're going to have to go in camera for, I would say, no more than 10 minutes. So we will be back very, very shortly. And the resolution is that City Council enter into in-camera session to consider the following item pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act, in-camera report number DCS 2018-39 regarding acquisition or disposition of land pursuant to Section 239(2) subsection C of the Municipal Act. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor McCaw. All in favor? Carried. Again, we'll be back in 10 minutes or less. That concludes last items for new business. I'll call number 11, motions. Anyone have any? We have no motions before us. Any notice of motions? Notice of motions. 13, any announcements? I have some, but I'll ask first around the table, so I'll start with Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. Last Monday, I had the pleasure of representing yourself and the colleagues at Quinte West, the inaugural meeting, and it was great to have a chat with our fellow colleagues next door at Quinte West, and certainly appreciate their partnerships and emphasize the importance of actually growing those partnerships in a greater, fulsome way.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on that side for announcements? Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, I just want to announce that last week I was involved with International Volunteer Day, and Councillor Thompson and myself were at the Belleville Legion, and Brenda Snyder from the Volunteer and Information Quinte were there. Thanked all the volunteers that make a difference in our community. They are the backbone of Belleville and in the thousands. So that was a special night. And Mayor Panchuk and myself and Councillor Sanderson had a chance to see the Belleville Toy Drive in full operation, second floor at the Legion, and wonderful work there, and great partnership with the Belleville Fire Department and students from Loyalist College. So that's a win-win, and congratulations to the Belleville Fire Department for that. I think Ryan told us from the Fire Department this is the 15th year at the Belleville Legion, which is a city-owned building, operating that. And finally, I want to get in, Children's Safety Village on Friday night had an evening with Santa Claus. Huge crowd, lots of kids anticipating Santa coming in the next couple of weeks, and Chamber of Commerce involved, and the Children's Safety Village. So it was a nice evening.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on that side? Councillor Thompson.
Just a couple. Had the pleasure of doing with that time Mayor-elect Mayor Panchuk at the E-Court Real Estate office on Front Street, and then last week I participated in the summit that Dr. Ren Alexander put on at the library. I was part of the panel. Great discussion on inclusivity in our community, and there's talk of having it more often in our community. So there was a panel of 7 people, and just so much on immigration, inclusivity in our community, which is extremely much more important than we ever. So it was a great enjoyment, and looking forward to taking part in it again. And Mayor Panchuk was there and brought greetings. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Councillor Millette.
I represented the city last week at the launch of the Feed the Meter program for Food for Learning. They very much appreciate the city's support for that. I would like to encourage everyone, if you do park downtown, to please feed the meter. It's not free parking. So I have in the past seen too many people just, woohoo. Yeah. It's not a free-for-all. Please, it's an important program, so throw a few coins in the meter at least. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Any announcements for staff? All right, well, I have a proclamation. This is my first ever proclamation, so it's very exciting. I would like to proclaim the upcoming month of January 2019 as Alzheimer's Awareness Month in the City of Belleville. I ask you to please assist me in spreading the word for this very important cause. And since the election and since the inaugural, we've had a chance to attend some meetings. Before we were sworn in, I had the ability to attend the Belleville Downtown Improvement Association annual meeting to bring greetings and to present some thoughts to the future of the BDIA. I was happy to be joined that evening by Councillor Sanderson, Councillor McCaw, Councillor Thompson and Millette. 3 of them were councillor-elects at that point. I was able to, again, congratulate the newly elected board members and wish them well going forward. The inaugural event that we had a week ago today on December 3rd was a very special moment for all of Belleville City Council and myself. We would like to all say thank you to the entire community for your support during the election, and we very much look forward to representing the citizens of Belleville over the next 4 years. On December the 6th, the City of Belleville had the opportunity to host a Mayor's Roundtable with mayors from Hastings County, Quinte West, Prince Edward County, Northumberland County. We met with Parliamentary Assistant Marco Mendocino from the Federal Ministry of Infrastructure, and we were all very fortunate to receive an update on the government's infrastructure plan, and it was quite a compliment for Belleville to host that at our wonderful Quinte Sports and Wellness Center. Last Friday, MPP Todd Smith made an announcement on December the 6th regarding cutting red tape when doing business in Ontario. We were very happy to host this at the Belleville Public Library, and it's an announcement that comes as a huge advocacy win for small business. And again, I was happy that day to be joined by Councillor Culhane, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Millette. Am I missing anyone who was there that day as well? Councillor Sanderson, yeah, thank you. It was nice to be there in force and to support that announcement from the provincial government, which speaks a lot for our opportunities as a municipality. Councillor Thompson and I were very pleased to attend our former employee Larry Glover's retirement. Larry worked for years in the Parks and Open Spaces department and was a tireless champion. I got so many compliments from groups and organizations that worked with Larry over the years, and we wish him very best wishes in his retirement. Last night, my wife and I had the chance to attend with Mayor Jim Harrison and his wife Jane from Quinte West the Pentecostals of Quinte Christmas concert, which was a wonderful Christmas celebration. And again, that community sends its best wishes to all of us. I'm very pleased that we have had a great amount of applications for the City of Belleville Board and Agency community applications. I think it is a record. We have had tremendous uptake on that, and we're looking forward to the special council meeting on January 9th. We'll be selecting people to help populate those committees. I want to take this moment to thank my fellow councillors who attended events with me or on my behalf in the last little while, as you will going forward. There have been a number of events taking place in our community, and Belleville is a wonderful place, and I appreciate you assisting me in making sure that we are there. With the holiday season now upon us, I'd like to remind everyone that Operation Red Nose is in full service. Please don't drink and drive over the holiday season. Let's make use of this great service for our community and help all the charities that benefit. And lastly, I would like to take a moment to wish everyone in the City of Belleville a very Merry Christmas and a safe and happy New Year. This year's New Year's levy will be slightly different than in previous years. We are changing the date from the 1st of January to January the 5th. It will be at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center in the gymnasium at 11 a.m. I encourage all members of the community to come and bring their families. It's a family event to come and celebrate the beginning of the new year. We have a new mayor, we have a new council, and we have a new year, and it is something that we want to invite you to attend. Andy Sparling from the Commodores Orchestra will be part of a jazz group that will be providing entertainment that day. We will have food and refreshments, and we will have face painting and balloon artists for children this year. And with that, I'd like to ask for a Councillor Culhane, okay?
Excuse me, Your Worship, I have one late announcement.
Sure,
I wasn't quite quick enough. I had the pleasure of representing you and fellow councillors at the opening of the Country Inn and Suites, a new hotel on North Front Street that you weren't able to attend. You were booked. I'd just like to say, lovely new hotel, very nicely appointed, friendly, welcoming staff, and I appreciated the opportunity. It was a pleasure.
Sure, thank you. Thank you again, and a reminder, after the meeting concludes, I would like to invite everybody, councillors, staff, and members of the gallery to join us in my offices for some holiday cheer, if you're able to join us. Lastly, I need a confirmatory bylaw, that bylaw number 2018-207, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on December 10th, 2018, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 10th day of December 2018. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Williams. All in favor? And I need a motion to adjourn? Yep, so a motion to adjourn moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor McCaw. All in favor? Thank you very much.